A majestic giant, the elephant is by far the largest creature that walks the earth. A mountain of muscle, endowed with an enormous brain, the elephant has evolved over 55 million years. But why has it grown so big? What can it do with such brain power? Could it be capable of thoughts and feelings? This is the elephant story. One of the most dramatic sights in nature is when two super heavyweight elephant bulls square up for a fight. They can weigh up to 7.5 tons, grow to 13 feet at the shoulder, and have tusks as long as 10.5 feet. Everything about the elephant is large. The kingdom of the elephants spans many hundreds of square miles. Their families are big, often 30 strong. They seem to be big-hearted, too, with a great capacity for loyalty and devotion. Size is an elephant's greatest asset. It has few natural enemies and can reach a wider variety of food than any of the animals around it. Today there are two species, the African, which is larger and heavier, and the Asian, with its bumpy head and smaller ears. This is Siri, and these are her vital statistics. She is 28 years old and comes from Burma. She stands 8 feet 6 inches tall, 3 feet 6 inches wide, and weighs in at over 4 tons. Her skeleton has to support this great weight. The key to its strength is in the arrangement of its leg bones. Smaller mammals tend to stand with bent legs, while Siri's bones stack almost vertically to form a sturdy pillar. Not only is this stance immensely strong, but it helps to explain the elephant's strange gait. To carry her weight, Siri has to walk with a stiff posture. At a walking pace, this looks elegant enough. But when she speeds up, it's a different matter. When other mammals run, They exploit the springiness of their bent legs. But Siri cannot do this. She simply speeds up her stiff-legged walk. It might look awkward, but the elephant can move faster than an Olympic sprinter. At this speed, 4 tons of flesh create bone-shattering forces. But Siri compensates for the lack of springiness in her legs. Strange as it may seem, elephants walk on tiptoe. The ankle bones rest on a great pad of spongy material, which acts like a shock absorber. This also explains how such a large animal can move so quietly. The foot smothers any object beneath it, muffling noises such as the cracking of a stick. Even in swamps, the design of their feet means that they can move around without getting stuck. Their feet splay out, acting like snowshoes, preventing them from sinking in too deep. Elephants have evolved to live in very different conditions, from the coldest of mountains to the hottest of deserts. Most warm-blooded animals have to maintain their bodies within a very narrow heat range, but elephants can withstand far greater changes in their body temperature. Elephants tend to live in hot places and have evolved a number of mechanisms to keep cool. One way is to have an organ that is several sizes too big for its body. Heat is lost through the skin. The more wrinkled it is, the greater its surface area, the cooler the elephant. Wallowing may look like pure enjoyment, but it serves a vital purpose. Water and mud alone can cool the elephant, but the wrinkles act to prolong the effect. Mud trapped in the folds stays moist when the elephant is back out in the hot sun. As the water evaporates from the skin, it cools the elephant, much as evaporating sweat cools us. A final powdering with talc of the savanna, and the ablutions are complete. But this way of cooling is not powerful enough on its own. Another strategy has to be employed. A heat-sensitive camera shows in red the areas of Siri's body that radiate the most heat. Her ears act like the radiators of a car. The ears are laced with blood vessels which Siri can dilate and constrict at will, giving her very accurate control over the flow of blood into her ears. As she heats up, she opens more and more vessels. The blood is cool as it flows through the ear's paper-thin skin. The process is speeded up by flapping the ear, forcing a stream of cooling air across its surface. All the blood in an elephant, 100 gallons worth, can be pumped through the ears in 20 minutes. The cooled blood is mixed back into the main system, cooling the whole body and preventing the brain from overheating. African elephants are exposed to longer periods of sun than Asian elephants and have larger radiators. Heat is also generated internally by processes like digestion. A feeding elephant produces enough to heat a small house. Elephants spend as much as 3/4 of their lives feeding. Such an appetite can literally change the world they live in. In their pursuit of food, these eating machines transform their environment more than any other creature, except humans. In the space of a few years, forests can be turned into grasslands, and small mud pools transformed into large swamps. In all, up to 50 tons of its environment will be digested by each elephant each year. But all that chewing takes a heavy toll on the teeth. As they wear down, the teeth move forward slowly and snap off piece by piece as they get to the front of the mouth. At the back, meanwhile, new teeth are erupting and shifting forward. These teeth are massive, some weighing as much as 12 pounds. The last tooth wears out when the elephant is in its 60s. Unable to feed, it soon dies. For an animal that eats so much, its digestive system is surprisingly inefficient. Siri digests less than half of what she eats. Elephants, like other herbivores, are unable to digest the main components of plants, the tough, fibrous cellulose. Instead, this largest of creatures relies on the help of some of the smallest. A teeming population of microbes in the gut digests the material for them. Baby elephants are not born with these microbes, and so have to get them from somewhere else. The best source of microbes is mother's dung, and there's only one way to get them. One byproduct of this digestive process is an enormous quantity of methane gas. On an average day, an elephant expels enough gas to send an automobile 20 miles. The most distinctive feature of elephants is also the most versatile in nature. The trunk is telescopic and can reach branches up to 20 feet high, as well as food on the ground. It enables the elephant to eat more species of plants than most of the other animals in its habitat. It's a powerful siphon, capable of drawing 56 gallons of water in 4.5 minutes. The trunk is immensely strong, can clean lift 450 pounds, and can help drag and push much more. Yet it is also incredibly sensitive. The elephant has a keener sense of smell than a dog. And the trunk is as dexterous as a human hand. Yet the elephant isn't born with an innate mastery of this sophisticated instrument. That takes years of practice. The story of how this bizarre limb evolved began over 55 million years ago with the elephant's earliest ancestors. These primitive creatures were short-legged and about the size of a pig. They probably had a mobile snout formed from the upper lip and nose, which they used to gather food. Over time, new generations of these animals increased dramatically in size. As they became taller, their lower jaws also increased in length, maintaining contact with the ground for feeding. The snout, now looking slightly more trunk-like, got bigger too. Their heads, now adorned with bigger tusks, got much heavier. Their necks became shorter and stiffer, supporting the greater weight. This trend continued for tens of millions of years. The animals grew taller, and the jaw and trunk grew longer. Then, about 20 million years ago, the lower jaw began to shrink, but the trunk still remained in contact with the ground. The result was the appendage now used by the modern elephant. For centuries, scientists have known that unlike the limb of any other mammal, the trunk contains no bones, just muscle, hence its flexibility. Until recently, its precise workings have remained a mystery.
Oh, yes, look at that.
Dr. Hezi Shoshani spent months dissecting a trunk and is the first to disentangle the full complexity of its muscle system.
Here's the other piece. Now we can see these radiating muscles in here.
His startling conclusion is that it contains over 150,000 separate muscle units, far more than an adult human arm.
To anterior. We have 1, 2, 3.
Hence the trunk's great versatility.
Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful.
Shoshani's obsession with elephants extends to his choice of pet, a hyrax named Shafan. The hyrax is the elephant's closest living land relative. His examination didn't end with the trunk. He has devoted the last 15 years to dissecting the rest of the elephant. No one before him has done this systematically. The sheer scale of the job is daunting. At times, the dissector's scalpel has to give way to the chainsaw. One final organ remains to go under Shoshani's blade, and one question may yet be answered. Is it true that elephants never forget?
Look at the size of this brain.
Oh, wow.
Shoshani has waited a long time for this
Quite
moment.
large, isn't it?
He is about to dissect his first elephant brain with his collaborator, Professor Nick Mazeres, an expert in the human brain.
Here we go. Here.
Shoshani can hardly contain his excitement.
Nick, this is a beautiful job. Okay, go ahead.
See, it's tougher than the
Oh,
brain.
look at that inside. Oh, whoa.
Which fingers?
Whoa! I can see the corpus callosum, I can see the cerebrum, and oh, yeah, look at that. Okay, let me just do this last part. Just give me a pleasure of doing something, please.
That's why he called it
look at that.
arborvitae.
Look at this. Please now describe what you are seeing, Nick.
Here's the pituitary.
They are anxious to compare the elephant's brain to a human brain. Of particular interest are the structures involved in memory, the temporal lobes.
We are comparing the temporal lobes on a brain of an elephant, and this is the temporal lobe right in here, to that of a human on that side, and this is the temporal lobe right in here. There is one major difference that I can see, and I'm sure Nick would agree with me, is even though I read a lot about the size of the temporal lobe, once you see it, you just realize in a 3D how enormous it is.
Very large.
And even with a naked eye, one can notice that the convolutions on the human are less than that on the elephant.
The number of wiggly convolutions on the surface of the lobe indicates the capacity for information storage. Significantly, the elephant's temporal lobes appear to be even more convoluted than those of the human.
Having a look on the brain of an elephant and a human and comparing certain structures, especially the temporal lobes, I would come to a general conclusion that overall the elephant has the capacity to be able to remember and recognize better than a human being can. I believe there is some truth to the statement that elephants can never forget. Yes, I believe that.
But what could elephants be using such a good memory for? One use is for the power of recognition. Elephants can differentiate between up to 200 individuals. Good memory is essential because the females depend on each other in the rearing of their young to an extent that is very rare among mammals. A mother needs to be able to remember and know who are the tried and trusted helpers. Memory is the cement of elephant society, holding these complex bonds in place. Researchers know and have named each of the 200 elephants that roam through this part of Africa. Ian Douglas Hamilton is the pioneer of the study of elephant behavior in the wild. He has learned that elephants benefit greatly from having such a closely knit community.
The obvious advantage of living in a society like that is defense of the young, teaching of the young, and group defense against predators. You can imagine the constant anxiety and concern of this young female about a baby. So if there's the slightest hint of a predator, say a hyena, and hyenas do get in sometimes and bite off the tails of the babies. So predators can be a real threat. Another advantage of living in a group is that all the group can help in rearing the young. And it's amazing in elephant society how much time is spent by young females looking after small calves. They are absolutely fascinated. Technically, they're known as alla mothers in the biological world, but we call them also aunties. And they hang around the calves and constantly look after them. Of course, if they get stuck in the mud or something, all hell breaks loose. A baby only has to make a minor protest for a huge response from the group, probably egged on by these alla mothers.
A family's frantic rescue attempt, captured by wildlife filmmakers Derek and Beverly Joubert, shows how precious a calf is. At best, a mother bears just one every 4 years. At such times of crisis, the family relies on the experience of the oldest and wisest female, the matriarch. The matriarch leads the family in its day-to-day routines. But in times of drought, for example, she must guide them to areas outside their usual range. This is when the remarkable memory of the elephant comes into its own. The matriarch dredges from her store of knowledge the best routes to take to exploit remote pockets of vegetation or pools of water, or where to obtain salt in a nutrient-poor habitat. This information has been gathered throughout her life by watching and committing to memory the paths taken by the previous matriarchs.
All the members of a family unit will depend heavily on the memory bank of the matriarch. She will remember where to go in times of drought. She will know what to do in times of insecurity, because she's been through it all. And the longer lived she is, the more successful she is. And the fact that this valuable information is stored there makes it all the more tragic when a matriarch gets wiped out. And of course, she'll be the first to go in a poaching epidemic because she has the largest tusks.
When elephants stray from the security of national parks, they are at the mercy of poachers and unsympathetic farmers. Ian Douglas Hamilton hopes that by finding out where they go, he can negotiate their freedom of movement with the people they encounter. But how do you follow an animal for months at a time, traveling many miles over rough terrain? The best way is to fit it with a radio transmitter.
Beautiful. And we just sit and observe, wait till they stop. They're a little bit alarmed, they've run off, but they will slow down, and then gradually she will drop back, and within 5 minutes we hope she'll go down. when she goes down, we have to get up fairly quickly because sometimes the others may try to help her, but in helping her, they may put their tusks and actually wound her a bit.
Felling the matriarch would cause pandemonium among the family, so they've darted Maud, her closest companion.
Okay, let's have the collar out.
She's been tusked.
She's been tusked.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. They tried to help her to get up. That's the problem. James, can you see if you can grab this from the other side?
This operation is always fraught with anxiety.
James, see if you can grab
They
this.
have to get in and out quickly so that the elephant doesn't overheat. They only have half an hour to fit the radio collar and administer the fast-acting antidote.
Right. That's fine. Can I just check the measurement? No, go ahead, go.
Go ahead. Aku can you check?
Okay, ready. Yes, we're ready. Here she comes.
It's a moment of great relief when Maud finally rises to her feet.
Off she goes to rejoin her family. And there they are in the distance.
Douglas Hamilton has been radio tracking elephants since the 1970s, when poaching was at its height. Only now are the elephants making the long journey back to some of their favorite feeding grounds. Incredibly, they are still able to retrace their footsteps 20 years later.
Here she is.
There she is.
Here she is.
Way, there we go.
But having such a long memory is proving to be a handicap.
Some memories are very attractive, that there may be an old matriarch who remembers a place that she couldn't go to, but she would like to go to because the food was particularly good. Now, after the poaching is relaxed, she goes back there and finds that somebody has very considerately planted a field of maize for her. And herein lies the conflict between people and elephants. And unfortunately, the elephant is the inevitable loser.
A matriarch devotes her lifetime to building a store of knowledge for the benefit of the family. But bulls have a very different agenda. They leave their families in their early teens to pursue an increasingly solitary existence and wander far and wide in search of potential mates. In the mating game, young males start with an overwhelming disadvantage: their size. female, size is everything, and she will usually reject the advances of small bulls. She's only interested in the biggest and strongest males. Among these bulls, competition to mate is intense and occasionally violent. If they had to fight every time to prove their dominance, they wouldn't live very long. Instead, they make use of their prodigious memory. From the time they are infants, males test their strength by sparring with each other. Throughout their lives, they create a memory bank of the relative strengths of the other bulls to estimate their chances of winning in a real fight. This pecking order is thrown into chaos, however, when a male comes into must. Characterized by a streaming temporal gland and dribbling penis, this seasonal surge of testosterone pumping through its body makes it highly belligerent. A weaker bull in must will take a chance against a stronger opponent, and battle may commence. Fights can go on for up to 2 days, sometimes to the death. But they will only occur when there is a prize worth fighting for, a nearby female in heat. Elephant mating requires not just balance, but a superb sense of timing. A bull may have to wait up to 40 years to mate. Then he has to know when a female is fertile, which is for just 2 days out of every 4 years. This is because she is either pregnant or she is weaning her calf for the rest of that period. Yet bulls who range over vast areas seem to be able to home in on a female just when she's at the peak of her fertility. Is there some mysterious form of communication going on here? For years, Dr. Joyce Poole has been studying how elephants communicate.
There have been many stories by hunters and naturalists about groups of elephants, perhaps several miles apart, apparently moving in synchrony. And then came up the idea of elephant ESP.
Poole knew that there must be a more scientific explanation for these hunters' tales. Her observations of elephant families provided a clue.
For many years, we've noticed on occasion a female will suddenly freeze and all the rest of the elephants stop at the same time, as if they've heard a sound and we didn't hear anything. Or occasions where, again, a female at the back of the line might open her mouth very loudly as if she was rumbling, and yet we couldn't hear anything. And it really made us wonder whether, in fact, the elephants were making sounds that we couldn't hear.
Long-distance communication remained a mystery until a chance observation 15 years ago by zoologist Katie Payne.
I felt a throbbing in the air in the zoo near the elephant cage, and it flashed me back to a memory from 34 years before when I was 13 years old. I was singing a chorus, and we were singing Bach's St. Matthew Passion. This particular chorus has a very low-pitched bass voice. The organ descends and descends and descends, and when it got to the bottom, I began to feel more than I could hear the sound. I lost my sense of pitch. I could just feel throbbing. That was the same thing I felt in the zoo. So when I was in the zoo, I thought, well, my goodness, perhaps elephants are making sounds so low-pitched that I can't hear them at all, but still very powerful so that I feel them. Friday, 14th of June, 10:55, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Channel 1 is at 25, Channel 2 is at 35.
Payne returned to the zoo with equipment used to record low-pitched sound, or infrasound. This sound is inaudible under normal circumstances, but can be brought into the range of human hearing by speeding up the tape.
This is a tape of one of those moments when we felt the throbbing in the air in the zoo. First, I play it the way we heard it, real time. I'm really not hearing any elephant sounds. I just hear equipment noise. Now if I take this same piece of tape and rewind it and play it back, 10 times speeded up, the pitch of all the sounds will go up and very low sounds will now become audible. All of those sounds are elephant sounds. We didn't hear before. They're all below the frequencies that people can hear. It was a tremendous moment to realize that we'd found a new dimension in acoustic communication. Nobody had listened for infrasound among land animals before. No one had thought there was an animal large enough to make powerful low-frequency sounds like this. And what it meant for the elephants was that they might be able to use it to communicate over long distances, because infrasound travels much better than high-frequency sounds. We know from our experiments that elephants respond to each other's calls over at least 4 kilometers. When there's a real crisis, my guess is that elephants communicate over 10 to 20 kilometers.
How can infrasound travel these distances? Sound which falls into the range of human hearing doesn't travel very far. because it consists of short sound waves which are easily scattered when they hit obstacles like trees or shrubs. Infrasound consists of long sound waves which bend round obstacles with very little scattering and consequently travel much further. The discovery of the previously unheard voice of the elephant confirms how sophisticated their system of communication really is. Joyce Poole is attuned to the subtle nuances of elephant vocalization and is attempting to decipher their language.
In order to figure out what a call means, there's just hours and hours of watching and listening to elephants. But it's hard even to figure out who's made the call because the low frequency calls are very hard for our human ears to localize. One thing that helps are the ear flaps, because elephants tend to flap their ears in a certain way when they've called. So during a let's go rumble, they might flap their ears very slowly as they're rumbling. During a greeting rumble, it's quite different. They hold their ears very high and flap them quite rapidly.
What to an untrained ear might sound like a cacophony of bellowing and rumbling, to Joyce Poole is meaningful.
Many calls are quite simple. For instance, a call meaning, I want more milk, or another call meaning, let's go. Whereas other calls seem to be very complex. There's a series of rumbles that are almost like a discussion, with one female saying, let's go this way, and another female saying, no, I want to go in the other direction. Who knows what they're actually saying to one another, but so far we've identified some 33 different calls made by elephants: rumbles, trumpets, snorts, groans, bellows, and so on, each with a different meaning. But I feel we're just at the beginning.
It's now thought that this communication is at least as sophisticated as that of great apes, whales, and dolphins. Joyce Poole makes even greater claims, believing that elephants may be conscious in the same way we are.
People tend to think that only humans are self-aware, but from the years that I've spent with elephants, I do think that they too are self-aware. I think that they have a sense of humor, for instance. Watching elephants, sometimes in the way that they play, certain expressions they make, as if they are amused at their own actions. Times that I've sort of played with elephants, and those games are remembered many years later, and the elephants will come towards the car and waggle their head in a certain way with what we call a smile, as if to say, yes, I remember that game with you.
If these animals possess a sense of humor and a self-awareness, as Joyce Poole claims, it would suggest that they have an emotional life and feelings for each other. The way they behave around the remains of one of their own is akin to the way humans express their grief.
Elephants seem to have have an understanding of death. It's just amazing watching elephants around the bones of other elephants. The way they turn the bones over and examine every crevice, stepping very carefully on the bones, the way they wake up a baby. What is it that they're trying to find out? Why are they doing this? It's almost like a ritual. Who else has rituals around death? Humans.
Does this mighty creature really possess the capacity for consciousness and feelings, as Joyce Poole suggests? We may dissect its brain, record its sounds, and analyze its body language. But for now, its inner world remains beyond our grasp. All we can say for sure is that the elephant is more than the sum of its very large parts.